next to your name, and we will know you want to say something. So let us get started. And I'm going to start by asking Martin to say a word of prayer.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity to call people for a meeting. We thank you, God, for each and every one who is here today. You have blessed us with supportive people who seek the welfare of your people and the association. Loving Father, we thank you most of all for being here in our midst. Let your presence be made known and lead this meeting today. Father, for we know you're always here to support your people. And glorious God, you promise to open doors of blessings and abundance for your people. We ask that you would work mightily in us this evening. Come upon us and cause us to have a productive meeting. Lead each one of us so that we can make fruitful contributions at this time. Enable us to think and strategize in ways that will achieve great results. Purify your thoughts, O God, and motives, so that each one of us will enter this meeting desiring the good of others and the pleasure of your name. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Martin. Give me a minute, please. We're having a little technical issue, so just give me a minute, please. Your mic off?
Did you know that HTC gave Lou full access? Did you? It's bad. Police 14-year-old GSW left the right chest. He's like, who knows? It's time to get 68 respiration tickets. Jesus, he's just a kid.
Louis and Dr. Blue, okay? We're here to help you.
I'm here, baby. Baby. I'm here, baby.
Ask you, Louis.
I like this. I have to say that we can't do this.
Please. Okay, transfer on my count. 1, 2, 3.
Second ambulance coming in.
Type from first 2 units and get a second ID. Kaylin Pagan, 17-year-old GSW with a bullet hole on the left side of his neck, 98, 145/85, 14. That's on the same corner as the first victim. According to NYPD, only 1 shot. There must have been some bullet. Okay, let's get him into bay 24. Jalen, can you wiggle your toes for me? Okay, that's great.
Release BP is dropping, heart rate is rising.
Okay, hang 2 bags, normal stamina, let's get type and crossfit. Go ahead.
Heart rate's climbing now, 154, and BP dropping. Can you over 40?
Muffled heart sounds. Police got a pericardial effusion.
It must be accumulating on his heart. Heart rate going from 100 to 160.
Okay, if we don't do a pericardial stimulus soon, his BP will bottom out. Where's cardiac arrest?
Okay, good evening again.
What are his new lines?
Trying to a little technical problem there in that I had the wrong amount as the maximum for our meeting, and we have reached the maximum. Anyone who is not in the meeting yet will be unable to get in now. What I will do for those who do not make it in, I will run a second session again next week for the additional, for anyone else who would like to join the discussion. Obviously a new discussion on the same topic. I thought our account allowed more than 100, but apparently it does not. So we will proceed with the program though as is. As I said before, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us this evening and for this first event that will hopefully be an annual event. It is slightly different than the consultation, not what they were called roundtables that were held before, because this meeting is open to all registered adult members, which include executive and group council members. So it will be slightly different than what we are used to, but I think it's a good step going forward because we need to include everyone in our plans and get everybody on board as we move forward. So let us get into the evening. I don't want to be here too late. I definitely have to get home before curfew time. So let us get through the points. Not, I don't want you to express your concerns or make your suggestions, but if we can keep the agenda moving, that would be good. Item 3, brief report on the current school year. First, I believe we need to look at what we've done in last year before we can plan our next year going forward. So everybody should have heard my remarks from Founders Day. So I will not repeat everything I said at Founders Day. I will just take the main points from it. A year ago this time, we were discussing a new vision for the association and discussing how we are going to move forward. And within a couple of days to a couple of weeks, we had COVID locally, and we were into our first lockdown. And that changed everything that we do. Most groups could not meet physically. Not just on there because of what was happening to them, but to the schools and other places that they met, that they hold meetings at. There were very limited activities that we could actually hold. No subs were being collected because most of the time there weren't actual meetings, and there was no fundraising. That became our reality, not just here, but the world over. However, we are scouts. And the saying goes, a scout smiles and whistles in all difficulties. So we learned to adapt. Unfortunately, not all of us have been able to adapt our programs to function within the current guidelines, but we will discuss that further in the agenda at item 4C. So I won't get into that right now. However, we were still able to make some progress in the plans that we made and in the administration of the association amidst COVID in our ranks. To be precise, we completed part of the 2020 to 2021 registration electronically. That was a goal for 2021, 2022. And although we didn't do a full electronic registration, part of it was ahead of time. We completed the selection and appointment of a new commissioner, chief commissioner, using a process that was explained to all. I think, well, it wasn't the first time, but let's not get into that. Completed the cleanup at headquarters. We started making some necessary repairs to the building. However, that cleanup was a one-off exercise and it needs to be a continuous thing. Not just, the cleanup was just not about cleaning the grounds, although that was part of it. It was cleaning up the whole building, which has not undergone what they would call these days an industrial cleaning in many, many years. It went beyond just sweeping and mopping the floors kind of thing. After the appointment of the chief commissioner, I held consultations with the leaders from all 3 districts to discuss our renewed vision and to get everybody on board, get feedback on everybody before we agreed to a plan. I think that's the first in a very long time. We agreed to and published a development plan for the association and one for the property at Hazelwood. We had the appointment of a new headquarters team after allowing qualified leaders, regardless of their roles, to apply for the key positions. This is not the first time positions were advertised, but this is the first time the requirements for certain roles were relaxed to allow a wider pool that will be able to apply for them. We established a governance committee to publish and implement the official rules and regulations of the association. This is something that has been on the cards for decades, if not years. That committee is up and running, and we will discuss that later in the agenda as well. That committee was also responsible for reviewing our constitution, but since the government had announced that they are looking to move to a republic at the end of this year, by the end of this year, it was decided it made no sense amending the constitution and then have to turn around and amend it again after we become a republic. So that part has been put on hold for now. We established the awards and uniform committees. Both committees are reviewing the association's awards and uniforms. Both are in the process of I think both of them have finished their consultations now, but they actually consulted with the leaders, and the uniform committee also consulted with the youth members. They are finalizing their reports to be submitted. We are in the process of setting up a finance committee, and we'll discuss that later down in the agenda when we get to fundraising. And we are trying to set up a Friends of Scouting committee. And the Friends of Scouting committee will be charged with reestablishing Friends of Scouting, but with a new look. It is not just about a committee to raise funds for the association. It is a group to support the association, not just financially, but with other types of support, technical support, and any other assistance that we may need to get our program completed. They are the people who will help us to source that support. The Training Council has started reviewing the adult training program, and we're in the process of restructuring the courses and actually moving some of them online so that they're easy to be completed by new leaders. But there's only a few in a large amount of things to do. we still have a lot of work to do. And I say we, as I've said many times, my job is not to do all the work. The Chief Commissioner is a manager. I am supposed to manage the association, not do all the work of the association. The work is to be done by all of us. And I didn't say all of you, I said all of us, because I have work to do as well. As I said during my remarks, I'm not asking you to fix all the problems in your group or your district or at headquarters. All I'm asking each member to do is to do their part, whatever they can do to get us towards our goal. As the theme that we have chosen says, every action counts. Every action that you do towards our goals helps us get a little closer to where we want to be. Regardless of how small your action is, it counts. Everybody cannot do the same thing. And I'm not going to ask everybody to do the same thing. So whether you are a new leader or an old commissioner, every action counts. The newest group council member or the longest serving executive committee member, every action counts. Everybody has a part to play, and you need to do your part as we move forward. We will pause now if anybody has any questions or comments to make on the year in review. If you do, just raise your hand and we will call on you. All right, I take it that means nobody has any questions at this time. Item 4 is discussions, and I draw reference to the title, discussions and not statements by the Chief Commissioner. So I would expect some discussion on the next points coming up. BBSA development plan, where we are and where we are going. Last year in September, we published a document, Development Plan 2020 to 2025, Barbados Boy Scout Association. This document was circulated to all members of the association. And if you have not seen it or you cannot find your copy, it is available on our website under the resources heading. You go on our website, barbadosscouts.org. In the menu at the top, click resources, and it's about the 3rd or 4th document down in that list. We discussed it before it went out, and this is what it was amended from the draft that was created, and to include the other suggestions of the other members of the association, and we agreed that was our plan. Obviously, with COVID, some of the things we wanted to have completed by the end of the year, we could not do. But I think we have made a good start on the plan. As I was going through it earlier today, we actually did a little more than I thought we would have been able to do because of COVID, not when I originally looked at what we were doing the first year. We were unable to revise the Constitution. That's one of the first things. I mentioned the Governance Committee, which is in process of finalizing regulations and rules. That was point 2 of administration. Make more resources available from the regional level. We've had several courses being conducted by the region and the world, and we have made all of those available to all the leaders in the association, that they can sign up if they so desire to take part in the courses and webinars that have been taking place. For those of you who were unable to attend because of other commitments. Most of them are still online, and you can download the recorded session. Just 1 minute, you're recording? Oh, yeah. The recordings are there that you can go back and view them, and you won't be able, of course, to participate in the discussion, but you can see what was discussed, what sessions were presented. You can still glean from those. Participate in more regional events. Since COVID, all the regional events have been online and free. So we have been attending all of them at near maximum capacity, if not maximum capacity. We established a uniforms committee, that is done. Established a social media committee. We have set up a communications and PR committee, which will be one of their responsibilities in social media. And that committee is up and running. We have just, I think, confirmed all the members, and next month they will be doing, early next month, they will have an orientation session to get them up and running, and they are going to hit the ground running on getting our social media and into a state where we are getting out the message that we want. We constitute the National Awards Committee. That was done and in the process of completing what their mandate. In fact, I think they're finished. I think the report is to be sent in or may have been emailed yet already. Revise the National Adult Training Policy. As I said, that was being done, and the training program. We are working on both of those. We've developed a plan for the property under Hazelwood, and we have made immediate necessary repairs that were necessary to the building. There are still some repairs to be done, but those were the urgent ones that were completed. The Finance Committee will discuss later. And those are the points that we were either able to complete or we are in the process of completing. There were a couple others that we identified and made a start, but I did not think we got far enough in them to highlight them. For instance, we started to prepare for GSAT, but that is on hold right now because we need to get regulations and rules in place first before we can look at that. So that and the paperless system for registration will be coming this year. So I did not want to highlight that, as all we've done is sent out the forms so far. The question is, that is what we have done so far. And I invite your comments on that. And the question to you is, what do you think we should prioritize in the coming year from our goals? Or even if there's something else you think of that may not have been articulated, what do you think should be our priority in the coming year? April 1st to March 31st. And the floor is open. Don't make me call names.
My video is stopped.
All right, let me start at top and come down. Oh, all right, Abigail, you have your hand up.
Good evening to everyone. I was told.
I'm not hearing you. Oh, wait, sorry, hold on a minute. Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that. My microphone was mute from when Martin was saying the prayer. Not microphone, speaker.
Okay, good evening to everyone. Greetings to all who are in this meeting. It is necessary that as scouts, instead of just asking for things, we must show what we are about in terms of being of use to our community. So whether or not it is easy for us, we should be able to, at some point, whether by district or as a national body, give things to those who are in need in this pandemic. I believe that leaders and district commissioners can identify the needs of those persons that are in their districts and their communities, and let the Boy Scout seem relevant in terms of what is being done in the community, and why, and then promote ourselves as an organization really worth being, having our young people as part of it, carrying out the mandate that is scouting, which is being to serve our God and our fellow man. Thank you.
Thank you to Abigail. That is supposed to be one of our goals, so I have highlighted that one for this year. We had a goal set up as encourage groups and thereby their members to become more involved in their communities. This can be achieved by encouraging them to develop and execute ongoing projects as opposed to one-off activities conducted once or twice a year. In addition to that, earlier this year, I spoke to a couple of members of my team about, I think we discussed it at CCC as well, about setting up a food collection, a grocery collection here at headquarters. Not just for COVID, it's something I was thinking about before, but after we got caught up in COVID, it went from my mind. It's only as we have received some hampers to give out to our members in need from different organizations that it came back to me. And I was looking at us having a continuous project here where we collect items and give them to our members in need on a continuous basis. Because we do have quite a few members, even before COVID, who are in need of assistance. Regularly, we have one-off collections where we collect foodstuffs for the AIDS food bank, or if there's been a hurricane or something like that in one of the islands, and we only have those types of things, but something that we can help our own as well as others if necessary. Gary, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, good afternoon, Chief. Good afternoon, folks. One of the, because you just mentioned the whole thing about having a grocery hamper kind of thing. It was some year, or probably like two years ago, I was thinking of that mostly in terms of like order hurricane season. Sorry, that that as an association, it would be good for us to stockpile certain items, not non-perishable stuff that we should have available in the association for hurricane season. That was one of the things I want to touch on with regard to what you were saying. There was one other aspect, because I'm sure that you did mention the whole thing about training, or what we should prioritize at this point. one of the things that crossed my mind is to accelerate the whole idea of training for leaders, and so on, and mobile, and well, the team for PR has already been mobilized. So that is also a very good step in trying to cause the Boy Scouts to be a lot more attractive to other youngsters. And this is a really, really good opportunity for us right now in terms of COVID and being relevant for this time that we have. All right, that was my contribution.
All right, thank you. Mark Hellman. Mark, you had your hand up, you can.
Hi, Chief. Good evening, everybody. Two things. The first one is myself and someone else raised questions in chat. And then number two is that, well, I can see the rationale for the Boy Scouts wanting to start a food bank or a food drive. From a perspective of someone who sits as part of the National Sedema Committee, but then it'd be better for you all to twin with maybe an organization like the Salvation Army and have your needed persons be filtered in through that, and maybe then make donations towards the Salvation Army and stuff like that, instead of having to find warehousing space and then management of the will have and stuff like that. They're on board. It could be a bit of a tedious task, so I'm just asking, just throwing that out there.
Okay, I will investigate that. Anybody else has anything to add at this time? When Gary was talking, I thought of something else, and I should have written it down because that has slipped my mind now. Anybody else has anything else they wish to add at this point? All right, I will take what was said into consideration. Huh?
Yes, Chief. Good evening.
Good evening.
This is Ron Grant speaking.
Yeah.
All right. You know, you were saying at the beginning that every action counts, and seeing that we are talking about the development plan. I'm sure just like me, you were a little disappointed with the turnout for the cleanup that was scheduled last weekend. And it is okay to sit here and say every action counts, but we need to step up and step out. I know COVID had some of us a little skeptical for leaving home, etc. But I myself was a little shocked at the condition of Boy Scout headquarters when I got there. And I was disappointed that I was the only one there, and then David Lucas turned up shortly afterwards. I did ask you at that time when the next one would be. However, I think that we need to make a strong commitment to the things that the association is planning in terms of the development plan. It's okay to have a plan, but if persons don't put the effort into it, the plan is as good as the paper is on. So going forward, I hope to see more commitment to the plan from the other members. There are 100 members here on this evening. The association is much larger than that. And as I said, it bugged me for a whole week. So I was trying to think of ways that I could just figure out if I had to do the job myself to get it done, because it's something that has to be done. But I think there are other members that need to step up as well. So I just want to make that point that you're saying every action counts, and it really does. It's a small action. You could get grass, you could bring water, something. But just look at the plan
I don't think there's nothing you can do on that plan. There's something on that plan that can be done and you could contribute to. So that's my contribution.
Thanks, Ron, for raising that. Actually had it down to raise under, let me get to the property development plan, but that's okay. It could raise now. Because we did have that as one of our development plan goals. Yes, sir. Not yet. Somebody asked about the revision of the program books. We have not done it as yet because we need to complete a full review of the youth program as a whole. So even though some of the sections were working on updating their particular sections, we want to have all done together because we need to look at the youth program. In the past, we have basically had 4 youth programs. We've had a Beaver program, a Cub Scout program, a Scout program, and a Venture Scout program. Lucky for us, because our system was based on the English system, the programs tend to tie into one another to some extent. But that is not how a program is supposed to be done. It's supposed to be one youth program with 4 sections to it, i.e. the programs are supposed to work in tandem together from beginning at 4 years old and ending at 22 years old for the ventures. And it is one program running from the beginning to end, but it's divided into the 4 sections that we have. So there's part that's for the beavers, parts for the cubs, parts for the scouts, parts for the ventures. But the overall goal of all the sections is the same. We will be starting that next month. And out of that, when they meet, then the individual revision of the individual sections will come out of that. But I need to be sure that everybody is on the same page while they are looking at their sectional programs. Thanks for raising that. I did not have that in my list and it was something to discuss, yes.
Is there a fundraising committee?
No, there is no fundraising committee. There will be a finance committee, which I will come to later on. But I don't know when it's the last time there was a fundraising committee, if there was one before. There was one housekeeping matter I did not remember, and that is to take attendance. And what I'm going to ask everybody to do is in the chat to put your name and your group, or your name and your district. Or if you're a headquarters person, just put your name and Scout headquarters, so that we can record the attendance rather than somebody trying to write off all 100 names, especially when some are names that we will not recognize, like fire tablet. In fact, we got 2 fire tablets. So just write your name in the chat and the group you are from. Because when the meeting is recorded, what is said in the chat too is recorded. So make a note of that too, because even though you can message somebody in particular and not in the main group, all of it is still recorded. So just a word of warning. I don't know that Zoom does that. All right, if there are no other questions or comments, CCC will meet next week, and sorry, the executive will meet next week. CCC will go through before, and we will agree on the points that we will look at in the coming year, and they'll be circulated to all so that everybody knows where we are and what page we are working on. Discussion 4B. Discussion 4B, Regulations and Rules 2020. The Governance Committee is diligently working to complete the final copy of Regulations and Rules 2020. This is a document that will replace POR. When we discussed it originally at the CCC, we agreed to go with Regulations and Rules. One, merely because we did not want to use the name PONR, because we didn't want to have any confusion about which PONR we are talking about. Everybody hears PONR, they automatically think of the UK PONR. So we decided to go with regulations and rules. And I would like to draw a reference to the name regulations and rules, because the main part is regulations. The rules are the second part. Earlier this year, I urged everybody to review the draft copy. The second draft was distributed in December. And persons were asked to review and comment on it until, by the 31st of January, 2021. In January, I sent an email reminding persons, and I got several responses from people saying they didn't see the first email that had the document. I spoke to the National Committee, and they extended the date, I think it was till the 10th of February, or the 14th, can't remember. Anyway, they extended it into February. At the time I sent out that email, I asked everybody to review the document, especially certain parts of it that I thought people needed to be aware of and to comment on. I asked you to look at the consultation notes, because without reading those first, trying to review the document might not make sense in certain sections. Chapters 1 and 2, which contains the fundamental scouting and the key policies. There are not a lot of things new there. It is just that most of these things have never been recorded in one place before. Written in one place before. Different policies and fundamentals would have sent out in letters of all and emails more recently. And unless you had your collection of all these letters and emails together, it would be hard to put the policies of the association together for the average leader, especially those who came in recent times. And when I say recent times, I'm talking about after 2000. So we're still talking about 21 years ago. So I asked you to look at them, see what they are, and see if you agree with them. Then I asked you to look at chapters 3, 4, and 5, which deals with the Scout Group, the Scout District, and Scout Headquarters. And look at the sections that apply to you. In other words, if you are a beaver leader, look through the requirements for a beaver leader in the group section. You're an adult leader, look at all the sections, all the rules that govern an adult leader, and see if you agree with them or if you have questions about them. Chapter 8, the activities. Now I ask everybody to look at rules 1 to 10, 8.1 to 8.10, especially 8.7. And I thought this is the one that I would have had a lot of comments coming in about actually either opposed to it or wanted it to be worded differently. I don't think anything came in on that. Because Rule 8.7 changes how we conduct certain activities, what are referred to as adventurous activities, and the duty of care that is required if you're going to carry out such an activity. Chapter 14, complaints, suspensions, and dismissals. That's one that would be very contentious. I ask you to look at that. And then 15, the appointment process, which determines how leaders are appointed and reappointed. I don't know if people read them or not, but I can say by the 31st of January, there were few responses sent to the governance committee. And although I cannot say for sure how many came in between then and the 10th or the 14th of February, I know for sure there were not a lot. I know a few came in since then, but it was not a lot. I hope everybody took the time to review the document that applies, parts of the document that apply to them. Because when it becomes the rules and the regulations of the association, that is what they will be. Waiting until the day after they are implemented to come back and say you don't agree with something will be too late to have it changed right away. Not too late to complain, because the governance committee is a committee that runs all the time. It's just not there to put these regulations in place, because the regulations and the rules are constantly changing. Not everything, but small things in them. So after thing, if you have a complaint, you will send it in. And when it is time to review, because once or twice a year they will review, they will look at your comment. You will wait for that review. There is still time to say something. No, they are finishing up their work, but it is not in black and white yet. So I advise you to do it ASAP if you have something to say about it. The committee was supposed to be finished by the 31st, but they have asked for me to extend the deadline for another 2 weeks. Actually, all 3 committees that were set up, uniform, awards, and governance, were given a deadline of the 31st of March, 2021. I really didn't think all 3 would finish by that date, but that is the date we had set, and we decided we would stick with it and try to work to it, with understanding that because of how we are operating now, additional time may be needed. Awards has finished. I think uniform will finish on time. However, their reports have to come in before the regulations and rules are finished, because what is decided on the awards and the uniform form part of the regulations and rules. After they have submitted their final report, it will go to the National Executive Committee for approval. And once it has been approved, an implementation date, it will be set. Right now, I am hoping that we can finish everything to the point where we will implement on the 1st of May. There is still some work for the governance committee to do. Some of the responses that are waiting on the technical responses, it's not their fault that they're not in as yet, but that has been delaying some of their work. Also, the information sheets that form part and parcel to the regulations and rules. These are sheets that further explain certain rules. Those of you who would have been familiar with the fact sheets you used to get from the UK, in fact, they still have them on their sites. The information sheets are a similar document. I didn't call them fact sheets because, again, I didn't want any confusion with any existing documentation. These are sheets that further explain rules, and you use them rather than putting all the details in the regulations and rules, because the sheets can be changed, the information sheets can be changed easier than changing the whole document. And that is where we stand on regulations and rules. The floor is now open to you for any questions or comments you may have on the regulations and rules.
Chief,
Yes, ma'am.
I have concern, but I can't find my paper. I don't know what I do with it, but I have concern where they say that a boy may be a Muslim, and I have to make sure that he carry out his Muslim rule by going to his church. I to be honest with you though, I can't see myself. I have to go and to make sure that he's carrying out the rules of the Muslim, but he's not going to come, but I must go and carry out, see that this is done.
When you say carry out,
I don't remember there is a rule.
No. All right. You
Yeah.
are supposed to make sure every boy does his duty to God. Okay?
Yeah.
Regardless of their religion. It is not asking you to supervise them because you may not know what the rules of their religion are.
So
right?
how
By interacting with their parents. You should know that. You would know that, sorry. Right? That is where the interaction with the parents come in.
but it
Because
didn't say
I
that.
don't expect you to know the different requirements for the different religions. Even in Christianity, there are several different denominations that you will not know everything from. And this is not really a new rule. It's just, as I said, you might not have noticed it before because it was not recorded before. But it is not expecting you to go and monitor him. Is thing that you are to be making sure that he followed, that all your boys do their duty to God. And where you're unsure, that is where you interact with the parents.
If their God is not my God, I still have to do it?
Yes.
What you talk? Oh, sorry, Chief. All right, that is one. And the other one is with this. That it is not clear on female or male. And I think we can come into trouble with that male and female idea of we cannot discriminate. We cannot.
What are you talking about now?
I leave that. You honest, you tell me what I have to do. But I go on to know
Right.
the associate, a fella coming into my pack, and he's not a Christian. Right? He's not a Christian, but he's in my pack.
Right.
Can I say or decide I don't want him in my pack?
No, you can't do that. Scouting is open to
everybody,
regardless of their religion.
But he ain't got no religion.
You mean none at all?
No, he's atheist then.
Oh, no. We don't allow, because you have to say the promise. And the promise is to do my best, to do my duty to God. We do not allow, there are some associations that allow alternate promises to remove that part of the promise. We do not do that here.
So
right?
when the Muslim is going to renew the promise,
yes, he has a God.
Allah or something, that's all right?
That's all right, because he has a God. He does his duty to God. It's not do your duty to the Christian God. It's do your duty to God, whatever God you believe in. It is not a Christian organization. But in the tenets of the organization, they recognize a higher power.
That's their higher being.
Yes.
We know that?
Huh?
The association know that? We leaders know that?
They should know that.
Excuse me.
Yes, please.
When I used to be in training, at every course, this was stressed. That the association is an open association for everybody to serve their God. And this is something I used to stress all the time. Their God, whoever, Buddha, whoever it is. So all of the people who were trained should know that.
Well, I wasn't trained then.
Well, don't blame me.
But because I was
sure
going to
Marva and
when I was trained, I was never told. I was never told that you
were trained in 1802
of your thing. But I was not ever told that I was say Buddha and this God and thing. So when I'm doing an investiture now, I have to do 2 investiture. I have to do 2 investiture, Chief.
No, you don't have to do 2 investitures.
But when his boy said to to God, he's going to say it to Allah at the same time?
Yes, Gloria.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Oh, he's doing do that.
Whoever his God
You
is,
don't have,
he makes
you
that
don't have to, you would say repeat after me like
No,
everybody.
you can't do that now.
No, you do that now. What I'm saying is when instead of saying duty to God, you will say duty to Allah. Although
But you
some
don't
of
repeat
them,
after me.
you repeating after you, yes.
So I have to say, repeat after me. And I say God, and then I have to say Allah too?
No, you are going to say, repeat after me. I do my duty to God. You got 3 boys in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay? 2 are Christian and 1 is Muslim.
Yeah.
2 of them will say duty to God, and the 3rd one will say duty to Allah at the same time.
So then why should not be saying duty to God? If this boy can't say that, I feel that therefore they should say it by themselves. Why am I going to say my duty towards God? And this boy is saying my duty towards Allah. This boy is duty towards
Allah is his God.
But we still have
Allah
to
is his God.
But we still have to repeat. The leader. I'm talking about the leader now.
Yeah, investiture doesn't change.
Gloria, remember, we have to make sure that we do not let our own biases walk into this process. When you speak to God, remember, tomato, tomato. My God may not be your God. So when I say to God, I'm saying to whoever my God is. So if my God is Allah or Muhammad, I am saying to that. If Christian is my God, I am saying to Jesus, to God, the Holy Spirit, that is my God. But we cannot begin the process when we allow our biases to get into that, because at the end of the day, you're going to have legal ramifications. You're also going to have a separation or division amongst the boys. So
I still feel you are saying you would be
God is not
discriminating
his
the boys
name.
if you going to
God
say
is a
to God.
God.
Let me speak. When you're going to say to God and this boy saying to Allah, I would prefer that they do the promise without me having, because I'm discriminating against the boy, because their God is not really they don't say that God is Allah. Allah. They say Allah.
Gloria, Gloria, you are not saying God as in a particular God.
Correct.
You are saying God as in a supreme being.
Correct.
The boy that is saying it, even though he may say God, he may not be talking about the same God that you're talking about, even though you all use the same word.
They can see that, amen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Additionally, the vow is a personal thing. So if you want to say God, you're vowing to your God. You're not vowing to, I'm not, or the child is not vowing to you or to your God, Gloria. It is to their God. So it is not just that he's following you. It is that he is making this vow towards humanity to his God.
Just a small note on that, if I may. I find that in more and more instances where where religions are concerned, they understand or they know, because sometimes if you are talking with some of these people, they say God with the understanding that you would know that they mean Allah or Buddha, whichever one. So I don't think if during the investiture and they say God, that they're moving away. I think that's one of the same points that was trying to be brought out here. So everybody know that there's a supreme being, and that's why they're there, right? They know that an oath must be made, but at the same time, the committee that is preparing or drafting all the documents should emphasize something inside there either in brackets or whatever the case may be, that we are of the understanding that when we say God, for a Muslim child, he would say God too, but he's actually speaking to Allah. For Buddha, whichever one it is. Okay, so that's just my take on it.
Thank you. The document does say that. The document has the promise as we say it, and then it has a section in it that shows alternatives that can be made to address different persons. Okay? Not just that part, but there's actually a part where you could change the section about queen and country for persons who are not Barbadian. Right? There are different alternatives that can be made for different sections, but that one, it is set there that alternatives can be made for the name God, depending on a person's, not just religion, but preference. Because I've had Muslim scouts that said God, even though they didn't require that they say Allah instead of God, right? It depends on your beliefs more so than anything, right? But the document, that's what it's called, the document specifies different alternatives that can be made to the promise.
Mark, has a
Yes, Mark.
Even everybody, Chief, to some extent, I could understand Gloria's point, and I really think it would be more incumbent on whoever the pack or calling leader is, when the likes of Gloria or whoever is doing the investiture, to inform them that we have about 2 Christians and 1 Muslim scout. So when like Gloria is doing the investiture, she would know and she would say, your promise.
Yeah, actually, you're supposed to take information on all your boys before they join.
Right.
So that is something that you should know. That's something you should know from the beginning, and something you should discuss. In fact, the document does tell you that you're to discuss it with the parents beforehand to find out what exactly their requirements will be. Yeah.
The servers that don't know the tables.
Can't remember.
They should have taken it.
You can't remember. Any other comments about that or any of the other sections of the regulations and rules? I want to draw your attention to Rule 8.7 again. Please, when this meeting is over, go and read it. In fact, read chapter 8. (8.7) refers to adventurous activity permit scheme. Permit is like what we call a camper certificate. In their language, you can't go to camp unless you have a camping permit. For us, it's called a camper certificate. As you all know, we can't conduct a camp unless we have a camper certificate. The Adventurous Activity Permit Scheme requires that a leader has a permit to conduct certain adventurous activities, as long as they are the person conducting the activity. In other words, it says that if you want to go diving, all right, no, let me go snorkeling. A lot of people go snorkeling. If you want to go snorkeling, and we are going out with this particular company that offers this activity with a qualified person conducting the activity, we can go on it without a permit. As usual, we tell our district ADC or our district scouter, we are going snorkeling on Saturday. These number of boys, etc., the usual thing. And we go as long as we've done our due diligence to make sure that the person that is taking us out is qualified. No problem. Where it comes now, that cannot be a problem. When you who consider yourself a skilled snorkeler decide to take out your boys snorkeling. To be able to do that once these rules come into play, you have to have permission from the association to carry out such an activity. Okay? It is something we have not done in the past. Because you are a scout leader, usually with experience in the past, you can take your boys, for instance, caving. Nobody asks any question. But that also goes for the body who just joined as a leader and has only just completed their enough training to run the group. They can decide that they're taking their boys caving. Nobody asks them what experience you have. Have you ever been caving before or anything like that? But it's believed that because you are a scout leader, you can take your boys caving. Because you are a scout leader, you can take your boys swimming or kayaking or boating. I'm not saying that you can't do that. What I'm saying is just on the basis of law of holding that title, we automatically assume you can conduct certain activities. Luckily for us, we have not had any problems as yet, but we cannot continue along that line until we do get into a problem. And that is what the Adventurous Activities Permit Scheme is about. The question is, can we support such a system? How are we going to supervise it? I can tell you that this rule will not come into effect on May 1st, but it will come into effect before the end of the school year. Because there are certain rules in the book that will implement in 3 months after the book comes into law. There are certain rules that will be implemented 6 months after the book is put into place. For the simple fact, we are not able to put all the rules in place now. However, rather than producing a document with only part of the rules, and then having to come in 3 months to insert more, then to come in 6 months and insert another set, all will be published at the same time. There will just be a list, actually they'll be color coded, that you will know that these ones in blue will come into effect on August 1st, and then the ones that in green will come in effect November 1st or whatever is decided. Because all that is stopping them from going into place is us having the ability to regulate the rules. Okay? So I urge you to do that because that can affect, that's not the scout section, that is the every section. So that can affect how you deliver your program. So I ask you for sure to look that over. That's one. Yes, sir.
Can I interject here for a slightly second?
Yes.
Now, first of all, I haven't seen it, but based on listening to you, there are 1 or 2 little questions I would like to ask. I can tell you my district, she's very, very, very meticulous. Yeah? Yeah. And if you're wrong, she's going to try to stop you early o'clock. Right. Okay? What I'm saying is, let's say I have 20 boys. As you say, you know, get going and stuff like that. You have 20 boys, and you're going to take them out, let's say, on a hike. You have a person that accustomed doing the hike, the person is qualified in it. My question is, are there a specific amount of leaders that should accompany these boys, because you're dealing with 20, right? And you have person to take you through the path, right? So is there a particular amount of persons, and what else should have? Should have a medical person on hand? All this sort of stuff, would that be in the document?
Yes, that is in the document.
Okay.
It does not give you a set ratio. It requires you to do an assessment on the activity, because different activities will require different ratios of leaders per boy, right? But you are supposed to do all that. It specifies which activity you must have a first aider, the level of first aid training they must have, etc. All that is in there. Okay? But again, that's why I'm telling you read it, because you might be one of the people that just take you and the other leaders take the boys and not think about that, those kind of things. Right?
I am not that type of deal, as I indicated from my statement.
Yeah, I heard the original statement. I mean you personally. Right? I mean you personally.
Okay.
Let's go back to chapter 3. There's one other thing in there, and that is the appointment of leaders. Not just appointment of leaders, the appointment of members, adult members, and what is required not just from uniformed people, but from helpers you may have in the pack. According to the regulations now, will be that everybody has to be registered. Not necessarily pay a registration fee, but everybody has to be registered. The new registration forms that went out a couple of weeks ago has this in. In other words, parent helpers or any other such person does not pay a registration fee, but you have to register then. Because the rules say that once you have people coming into regular contact with the boys, regardless of the section, the group must have a record of that person, the district must know who they are, and headquarters must know who they are. And that the person must be vetted. In the past, all we checked was people who put on the uniform. But sometimes you have people who help at packs and troops and colonies who have been helping for years, but have not been in uniform. But every week they are in contact with the boys. Further down the road, that vetting process will become even more things, because it calls for a criminal records check for certain positions. In our jurisdiction, that will mean providing a police certificate of character, because I cannot go to the police and say, Martin Taylor has applied to be a leader and I want to know if he's known to y'all. That's illegal here. In other jurisdictions, you can do that. We cannot. So it will mean that certain people will have to provide a police certificate of character if they want to be with the boys. That is not so right away, but I am warning you that it is coming up. For the people joining now, there will be a question that will be asked that you have to answer yes or no to. But as we go along, you will need to prove that yes or no. However, from this year, everybody, as part of the vetting process, must take the Safe from Harm course. That is an international course that we are using. We can develop our own, but we have decided not to at this stage. We will just use the international one. Anybody participating in any adults participating in any regional or international activities must have a valid Safe from Harm certificate. Even for several of these online activities we are doing, even though you're not coming into physical contact with anybody, you have to do a Safe from Harm certificate. So from this year, we are asking everybody to complete a Safe from Harm certificate. But that will become a standard for anybody who is looking to help. as long as you come into regular contact with the boys. It means that if you have a person who helps with, I can't even think of a badge now, of a badge, so they come in once every year, this rule will not apply to them. Or if you got somebody that comes and helps you once or twice a month, even though it is not every month, this rule will apply to them. Right? It's not a case of, I don't come every week, so it doesn't apply to me. As long as you are in regular contact and there is some description there of what regular is, you have to follow the rules. So even though you are not paying a registration fee, you still have to be vetted. Look through those and see what applies also to them, but to you as well, and see if you have a problem with what is being required. Because as I said, when it becomes the rules, that's what the rules are. For those who are already in, you will be required to complete the process when it's time to renew your warrant. Because the rules actually say that the vetting process is not to be completed once. It is to be completed at least every 5 years. Because let us be serious, you could join today with a squeaky clean background and everything, but that all means 5 years from now, you got the same record that you did 5 years ago. So when it is time to renew your warrant, you will be required to complete the process. As I've said before, warrants will not be done like they're done now. We go through a process every 5 years where the chief commissioner is expected to sign 300 or 400 warrants at one time and issue them. That will no longer happen. A warrant will be given when you are appointed as a leader. And it will be renewed 5 years from that date. So every year warrants will be renewed. Technically, every month warrants could be renewed. That way there will be a small pile being worked on, and the people responsible for it can check and make sure that the safe from harm certificate is there and whatever other requirements are there for the warrant to be renewed. For those who already have warrants, we will be going, once we got the database finalized, on 5-year intervals from when you first became a leader. So if you became a leader in 96, then 2021 will be the year for your warrant to be renewed. But that's a 5-year period after 1996. 1997, they will get their one due next year. So it will not be that big mass of confusion where everybody gets their warrants on the same day. And they're issued on the same day. But again, read the regulations on that and make sure that you agree to them. The appointments process requires that you receive a certain amount of training before you are responsible for boys. So this process that happens sometimes where you start a pack or a troop, and then next week you go to initial, and then you come back to explanatory, and all that time you run a pack, that will stop. I cannot tell you at this point in time what training you will have to receive. Or what happens now where you come to initial today, and initial is a little one-day course that just tells you something about scouting. And next week, you are put responsible for boys and asked to run a program. That has to stop as well. Because if anything happens, yes, you are responsible for the boys, but you are not trained to deal with those boys as yet. You don't know how you are supposed to conduct yourself as a leader with those boys. And we can find ourselves in some very serious trouble if something happens. We have been lucky to date, but because we have been lucky in the last 109 years, does not mean we'll be lucky in the next year or two. Okay? Read it and see. What it does say is before you are put in charge of boys, you are supposed to know what your job is. Even if you have not received all the training, you should have received enough to know what you are supposed to do. Check it out before it becomes the rules. You need to know beforehand.
Chief, excuse me.
You said something, Gloria?
Yeah. How soon will I know? How soon will we know? Because I got 1 or 2 leaders who want. How soon will I know about the amount of training that this person must do? How soon?
When the regulations are put in place.
Okay, after
Look at
regulations.
the 1st of May.
The 1st of May. Okay.
Yes. All right.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Sorry, I asked you what you had to say, you know. I was going to say something else.
Talking about the same thing, the same leaders and training.
Yes, I know it was on that. Maybe I'll come back to that.
Can I ask one question here?
Yeah.
In reference to these new regulations, are they on an electronic copy?
Yes, you can download it on our website, barbadoscouts.org. Click resources, and it's about the 3rd document down. It will say draft regulations and rules 2020. All right.
Okay. Another quick question. I know that dealing with rules and regulations have a lot of fine-tooth work to be done to it, and also a lot of legal parameters and stuff like that that must go into place. So I would suspect then that there's all of that inside there, the
yes.
legal people. Okay.
Yes, actually that's one of the holdups we have right now is the legal people. Okay, getting a legal opinion is not as easy as you may think it is unless you're paying for it. And even then, I'm not so sure.
But I would figure that a past scout who probably is of a legal mind would volunteer to be part of this committee.
We've had the volunteers. It's getting them to produce. Right? Okay. I don't remember what was the other point I had to raise. I come to you, Caroline. Give me a minute before I forget again. The rules also say that if you have left the association and you come back, you don't just pick up where you left and just run again. In other words, because you were trained and you got a award badge in 2000, but you have not been active since 2005, does not mean you pick up and go again. The award badge is yours, but your training must be renewed. In fact, the rules call for your training to be renewed for every X number of years, because the program is always changing. The basics will be the same as when you did Wood Badge in 2000, but certain requirements have come into play since then. You have to be brought up to date with those. The program has changed. You need to know what the new changes to the program is before you can run with boys again. Yes, Caroline.
Good evening, everyone. Caroline Maynard, Blackman and Gallup Scout Group, Southern District. You actually kind of touched on one of the things I was just thinking about. once a scout, a lot of people I hear say once a scout, always a scout. So you kind of touched on that with regard to retraining. I'm also asking a question with regard to the warrants. You said that you will have a warrant review at least every 5 years, but as you also mentioned that we may come in squeaky clean, but we may not remain squeaky clean. So what about warrant recalls? Is there such a thing as a warrant recall before this 5-year period? If a leader runs afoul of, for lack of a better word, runs afoul of the Barbados Boy Scout Association in terms of the legal overall parameters, in terms of the rule of law of the country and therefore of the Barbados Boy Scout Association, do we have a recall of warrant?
Yes, there is. Refer you to chapter 14, complaints, suspensions, and dismissals. All of that is covered there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on this section? All right, let us move quite along to point C, 4C, scouting in a COVID-19 environment. As I mentioned before, we've had to adapt. Right now, the only kind of meetings that can take place are virtual meetings. This is just not so in Barbados. This is so in many places around the world. For us, not everybody has been able to make that change. And we need to find out who those people are, and we need to get them the assistance that they need. I'll come to that. So far, the association has put out protocols that must be followed when you're having any kind of activity. Not just meetings, but any kind, whether it's physical or virtual. We have a list of protocols that must be followed. In addition to that, coming up with ideas for meetings virtually is not something that everybody can do. There are a lot of resources online that we can use to get ideas for meetings. The world has put together a whole section of resources to deal with, to help leaders to get their jobs done. It is now under the Scoutship, SCOUTSHIP. If you go on the WISDOM site, which is scout.org, in the members area, you should find the link for the Scoutship. And there are tons of resources there that you can use. Some, probably most, activities that you see will not work for you. But they have the ability of sparking ideas or putting you in directions that you may not have thought before. So the activity that is there as listed will not work for you. But it may give you an idea for another activity. You may be able to look at it and say, but you know, if I change this and that part of it, it will work for my boys. It will help you get your job done. There's nothing there listed. You can just go and print off in bulk and then got all the meetings for you for the rest of the term. You've got to be involved in it. But we can no longer sit down and wait for when scouting returns to normal, or we will not exist if we do that. We have quite a few groups who have not met in months, physically or virtually. And we need to get everybody started with virtual meetings. Every leader is not able to hold a virtual meeting. Some of them don't have the equipment. Some of them don't have a stable internet connection. And there are others who may have the first two, but don't have the skill to do it. As a leader, you need to find someone to help you, whether it be an ADC or district scouter, somebody in your family, one of the parents of one of the boys, somebody. There has to be somebody out there who can assist you in getting the meeting set up. I do not expect everybody to be able to do it. I'm not sure I can do it because I have never tried running a virtual meeting. My group meets every week, but it's not because I do it. One of the other leaders do it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of us that believe that we must do it ourselves. But that is not so. You may only have, because it's not just a leader, you have to look at if your boys are able to take part. You may only have 3 boys who are able to take part in a meeting, a virtual meeting. But then one of the other leaders that you work with or you know from another group has the same problem. They only got 4 boys. But there's nothing that says the 2 of y'all cannot have a joint meeting or incorporate a 3rd leader who has another 3. But now between the 3 of you, you have 10 boys. And you can get a good activity going. There are a lot of options open, but we have to make ourselves available and open to these options. Nothing says you have to do it on your own. David, you have your hand up if you want to speak before I continue.
Yes, Chief Commissioner. Sorry. You are encouraged to, like me, like myself, haven't started back yet for the past year. I'm looking forward to the past this year. I realize that I have an avenue where I can use our IT man, which also is one of our sculptors, to help me set up first of all, help me learn more about Zoom, what meeting, and then the other point is that I can talk to the right people because they will know they know what kind of boys and give me, but because also the boys to use tablets, and therefore I'm going to talk to the principal, and they will encourage about who that they listen to about versus pack. And if the IT guy which I know first show me, because I look at the Zooming and I see that I can set up a meeting. That's how you set up a meeting. But it's telling me that I need to invite persons to this meeting, to the meeting, and what time. So therefore, then I was thinking in that case, if I am sure that how to start a meeting virtual, and I know that it's something like something is like me where I was not active for past year, then need to go back to the farmers, to the school that I was before, and see every principal that work along with me together some boys talking to the parents, encouraging the parents, so that I can send in the link, so that and the time and the day, that so it'd be a little tourist where you know that yes, I probably had the thing do worship, but they need the principles to work out with me. I will only the parents know to get a new path going. So first of all, I gotta learn to understand. I gotta learn to know the Zoom format, how to record, how to set up the link and such for before I can do virtual. So you tell me that is the road that we gotta go.
Yes, that is the road you have to go. It's not going to be easy to do right off, but you can't just wait. Your position though is going to be slightly different because you are going to be restarting a group, and that's slightly different to somebody who already has a group that's functioning. To restart, you got to go through all the procedures for restarting a group before you can even start with virtual meetings. Right? Okay.
Fine.
All right. I have spoken to the national trainer already this week. And beginning early next month, we are going to be looking to put on a course or two to assist people with virtual meetings. There'll be a session on using the technology that is available and using the technology, because there's more than one application that can be used. Some have costs attached to them, some are free, but that will be one session. And then there will be a second session on how to actually conduct a virtual meeting, because it's not the same as a physical meeting, obviously. How to conduct the meeting, one, and then two, generating ideas for what to do at meetings. I had a meeting on Friday with a couple in Brooklyn, New York. I was put in contact with them through a friend. Actually, I was discussing with them and some other people overseas about assistance for the association with some of our projects. But then we got into discussion of their virtual meetings and what they do. And they've agreed to share with us some of their experiences and what they use to do their meetings. I've already talked about that with the team. So that would be part of the course. Information from that will come into the course as well. But there are other places out there that can give you ideas and can help you with the meetings on the platforms for the various associations. As I say, it is not an easy transition, but we have to make it. We cannot sit down and wait for physical meetings to restart. Because personally, the earliest I could see that happening is probably in September. And that is too long to wait to engage with your boys. On top of that, we are not helping our boys in any way if we are not engaging with them. For most of them, they are at home all day with the school. They're stuck in there. They need the diversion from what is happening. and we need to keep them engaged. So it's not something we can just sit back and wait on. We have to get out there. I know for a lot of people, it's scary. They don't even know where to start. I understand that. Don't think I do not understand it. But we need to get out there. If you are having a problem, you need to reach out to your ADC and district scouter and get help from them. They may not be able to help you personally, but they will be able to put you in the right direction, whether it is somebody else in the district or headquarters or wherever. They will steer you where you need to go. And as I said, the easiest solution for a lot of people will be to band together with someone else or two other persons, and work together to get your groups back up and functioning. You need to do that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dwayne World, 131 C Scout Group. I'm also chair of the Public Relations and Communications Committee of the Association. I missed a bit of it. I had to step away from the meeting. However, I think it would be useful for us to set up some training sessions for leaders who are having issues running meetings online. There are groups who are meeting online, and I think we can call on each other and help each other out. So I ask those persons who are well versed in the area of having online training and having online sessions and practice. Those who are creative, those who know the tools that are available, and we ask them to set up a session similar to this. Leaders who are interested in joining can join, and they will be able to learn from their brothers and sisters in scouting.
Thanks. You said you stepped away, but that's exactly what I said before you step back.
Okay, great.
John O.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
Chief, a question for you. I have been having troop meetings online, but the question arose yesterday when it was having the mental state of some of our boys. What do the association have plans in terms of helping some of our boys in their mental state?
Yes and no. It has been on my mind. I have not put anything in place as yet. But anybody who has that problem needs to get in contact with their district and let them know and let it come up that we can recommend people to assist. I actually have spoken to someone about training for leaders. It came out of our consultations that we had about providing training for leaders so that they'll be able to identify persons with problems and also being able to address some of them, the simpler ones. They would know how to address them and how to engage those boys. After I was supposed to get back to the person in January to do it, but then with all that happened in January and February, I was not able to get in contact with, not just able to get, they were also busy working with other departments for it. But I will make a note of it and I will address, I will seek further to engage him further so that we can get something on board. But if you do have persons with problems or you think are having problems, then you need to let us know so that we can try and get help for them. Lawrence Prophet.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. First of all, our group, we have our usual online training. One of the difficulties, well, one of the things that we did beforehand, we have a group, WhatsApp group, in which we invite all the parents to all the boys in it. And we keep the parents in the know. If they say when the boys are lacking in something and not producing, we invite the parent to help assist these boys in their stuff. One of the things though that I find is that there's some of them are sitting in a classroom, virtual classroom, online. And in the evening then when we come to do, because we try to use the same evening that we would use for our physical Cub Scout meeting. And so obviously time would have been prepared for that. But I find that there's still some boys who are where the attention span is not there. And one of the things behind this is that sometimes at home there's no supervision, one. And two, sometimes you have to give them something that is keeping them physically active, using their hands and preparing things. Okay, so we try to work our program based on that. Always give them something, keep the work coming at them so that at least they'll be able to put in, make an effort, and produce. Okay, if they don't produce this week, the next week, we ask about it. And if you realize it's not coming, then you ask the parent, what seems to be the hold up? That this person's not doing so, they're not doing that. And we find that we get a lot of assistance from the parents. But so far, the other thing that we have done, we have invited, because we do not use this medium, we use the Google Classroom, which is something that they're more or favorite on a daily basis. And we had asked the school ITC to give us assistance, and all the accounts and everything was set up via the school, whereby it's easier now because the boys now understand how to do this stuff. So I can even give them a test online and to see who has done the work, tell them who passed or who failed or whatever the case may be. So I find that that's one of the platforms that were easier for the children at the school.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else at this time?
Yeah, I posted a question in the chat, but what I wanted to ask Lawrence was, could them being absent the result of online burnout, was that explored on your end?
I'm still in the process. Yeah, I'm still in the process of trying to get a hold of some of the parents, because yes, it could be. That's why I indicated earlier that they're in the classroom from I think 9 o'clock on mornings. There are 2 or 3 sessions, there's a break, and then they go back. But most sessions on evenings finish around 2 o'clock. So it's 2:30. So we don't start our Cub group not until 4 o'clock, which gives them time to go and do other stuff. I find though that the ones that don't really turn up are the ones that are less supervised, being very honest. The ones that the parents pay an interest, because sometimes, just like in the school, just like in the classroom during the day, you have parents at home, and you can actually hear some of them in the back sitting down next to each other saying, you do that wrong, do it to her, or whatever the case may be. Because I'm one of those people, I spend my entire day in about 3 different computers with children doing work online. And I know what it can be like. But again, it comes right back down to supervision. We are not there, but at least the parent is the other leader. And they can help a lot in assisting us.
Somebody asked if any word of loss to happen corrected. Chief, any word of loss to happen corrected? So correcting.
Yes. To answer the question, yes, I have warrants have been corrected. Okay. Any other questions on?
Me, Chief.
Yes. Go ahead.
Chief, does the association have any way that they could help leaders who don't have the vote to assist them in any way? Do we have corporate Barbados could give you any? How can we get these leaders without the voice?
Well, before I can answer that question, I would need to know how many leaders we have that fall into that category.
Very well.
I can't just ask for the voices. I would need to say we have. That's one of the reasons I was saying that the ADCs and the district scholars need to reach out to these people so that we can find out what is happening.
I know about 3.
Why they are not meeting. Because once we get that information, then we can look at trying to address the problems that they have.
About 3 of them.
Huh?
About 3.
For you?
Yes, please.
That's why you're distracted. I need to know from the rest too, right? All right. Anything else? All right, let us move to 4D, fundraising. As I mentioned before, we are in the process of setting up a finance committee. The finance committee's job is not to raise money. The finance committee's job is to develop and execute a financial plan for the association. The committee will have 2 subcommittees. One will deal with fundraising, because fundraising will be part of their duties, but not their only duty. And then there will be a sponsorship subcommittee. Another subcommittee that will seek sponsorship for our various activities. Sponsorship from corporate Barbados, sponsorship from government, sponsorship from funding agencies. Wherever the funds are available, that committee will be responsible for that. Before we can ask people for funding, we need to know what funds we need. And that's one of the reasons I said to develop and then execute a financial plan for the association. The treasurer will be responsible for this committee. She will not necessarily be the chair of the committee. She can be, but she will be responsible for this committee. We are looking for persons to serve on this committee. We are looking for persons with experience and skills in the various areas. It is not a committee for me to fill with uniform members. Although a uniform member with the skills in the subset that we want can serve on the committee. Okay? In other words, I want persons on the sponsoring committee, on the sponsorship subcommittee who can prepare the necessary documents for the funding that we are talking about, who can speak to the persons in these areas in their language. Okay, that is what I am looking for. Persons who will know the people that they are going to interact with them with, or people that they know. But again, before we can get there, we need to know what we want. I have been in a couple of discussions with persons about assistance to the association. I've been having an email conversation with a former scout who was in England, now he's in the UAE, who is interested in helping us. But again, and I mentioned the ones I spoke to on Friday with assistance. The question is always, what do you need? What is your urgent needs? Nobody is going to give us money because we are scouts. They are going to finance projects. They're going to finance activities we are having. And we have to put what we want into projects. Nobody's going to give you money these days to pay your bills. They want to know that they give you money and you repainted the building, that they could take a picture of the building that repaint and they could publish it in their internal documents and whatnot and say, we did that. They can't hold up the light bill and the phone bill and whatever else that pay and say, we pay those. They want to take a picture of the boys that went to the camp that they sponsor. And say it impact on those 12 or 20 boys that went to camp. Okay? So we need to up our game, and that is why we need to get this committee set up. So if you know any person who you think is suitable for this, you can recommend them to the treasurer. You can send her an email at treasurer@barbadosscouts.org. Notice the word I use, recommend. You can recommend persons to the treasurer to sit on the committee. So if you know somebody who you think falls into that category, you can have a word with them, twist the arm, do whatever you gotta do, and then send off the name to the treasurer with the necessary contact information.
Oh,
I see you coughing. Give me a minute. I just want to finish what I'm saying before I lose my thought again. I have the gentleman you're speaking to that is in UAE right now. I have sent him off some information and he is looking to raise some funds for us. Now, I obviously have to get certain information for him. The WISDOM has set up a platform that we can use to raise funds as well. Again, in projects, it is like a GoFundMe page, which I think everybody knows what a GoFundMe page is. Similar concept, where the money they would collect the money, because to have something like that, you need to have certain banking things that we wouldn't have here. They would collect the money and then they would forward it to us from our project. All these are avenues we are investigating that can be done. Before I finish, go ahead, Calvin.
Okay, one is a question and the other one is a statement. Have the Boy Scouts Association constitution changed to permit uniformed persons to sit on the fundraising on some of these subcommittees? That's the question. And the statement that I would like to make is that before you can, and you said it, but then you twisted it around. Before you can actually go soliciting, for better use of a word, funds, you should at least put together a budget of what you want and how it is actually going to be spent, so that when you go seeking funds or trying to raise funds, at least you can say, well, I need $100,000, £100,000, 100,000 US for a particular project. In that way, persons are more readily to say, well, I can help you in this particular area. For example, you might say, this is just off the cuff. I want to have a chicken project, a chicken farm project, rearing chickens. It will cost us X amount to put together, depends. It will cost us X amount of money to put together to get the eggs or the chickens to rear or something like that. So if people know how much you're looking for, then at least you know what goal that you're going to set to arrive at the funds that you want. But the first question would be, has the Constitution changed to permit uniformed persons to sit on these subcommittees?
All right. As far as I know, the Constitution does not prohibit it, but I will have to check. The Constitution prohibits them from sitting on holding certain positions, but I will have to check on that, because I know all the committees we have had both a mixture of lay and uniform. But I will double check that.
Okay, and the statement I made, any response to that one?
Which mean by the project?
The projects.
No, I agree. Yeah, that's what I agree with that. That's why we're saying that everything has to be a project. And a project is just not about saying we want to paint the building. They want to know how much paint you need and how much money paint can cost. Which is one of the reasons we have not gotten out more things than we originally would have planned by now, because getting necessary quotations, etc., because that is required as well. Yeah, you have your hand still up?
Yeah. How soon then can you get the budget? Because my little phrase is that while the grass is growing, the horse is starving.
Yes.
And at this point in time, from what I'm hearing you saying and from all the necessary feedback I'm getting, is that you definitely need to acquire some funds to work on the projects that you have in mind, and that the association have in view.
We do not
how soon
have,
can you put a budget together?
No. That will happen in a hurry for an overall budget. But the individual projects that we prioritize, they will have the necessary information for them. And we have some of those ready and some that will be ready by the end of next month.
Okay, will you be publicizing them?
Yes, no, not well, yes and no. Some of them are being prepared for persons already, but if anybody wants them, they'll be available to them.
Okay, my email address is, I left my email address on the chat for you.
Okay, once in chat, I will get it, right.
You can always get it. I also want to say good evening to two persons, if I may, permit me to.
Yeah.
Michael Arthur and Mr. Lyle Weeks. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening. And thank you very much for your warm welcome and your salutation.
You're most welcome, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Finance is something we need to look at. In the coming year, the last year, funds have been limited. And I expect it's going to be even more limited in the coming year. When our financial statement comes out, around the AGM is going to look better than it actually is. And that is because we got last year's subvention and this year's subvention in the same financial year. But let us not be fooled. Right now, our finances hinge a lot on our subvention from government. As much as we may complain about how much it is or isn't, if you look at our statements, about half of our expenses are covered by that subvention, along with other donations. I cannot say what our subvention next year will be. Everybody would have seen in the paper last week that the government is projecting a deficit of $500 million for the year. And the economists are saying that is a very conservative figure. So we cannot sit down and think that we can get our subvention next year and that is going to carry us through. In fact, in reality, persons we normally get money from, we have not gotten in this last year. Outside of PwC, the only corporate one we have gotten so far is Cape Shepherd. And I want to mention Cape Shepherd particularly, because really and truly, I did not expect anything from Cape Shepherd this year, because we've all seen how many articles in the paper about the financial well-being of Cape Shepherd and Company and the different moves they've made and whatnot. But they did, it is not a large amount we get, but they made it. And I want to thank them for that. The treasurer would have thanked them officially, but I want to say that in public. But there are others that we have not gotten either last year or the year before. There are other organizations that give to us that we have not gotten this year. And I don't know if they will come between now and the 31st of March. We are not in a position we can't pay our bills yet because we got our subvention early this year. But we cannot keep banking on that. We have to decide, and we cannot assume that because we are scouts and we help the community and we help the boys and all these other catchphrases that we like to use, that people are just going to write checks and put them in the mail and send them to us or wire money to our account, because that's the way everybody going now. Because we are scouts. We have to change how we do business. As I said before, people like projects now. Everything we do, whether it is at national, district, or group level, it has to come like that. And they have to be working together, because there is not enough out there for all of us to go fighting for our little piece. So we need to work together in this area. We have received a couple of ideas for fundraising. But I am proposing that from now going forward, any mass-based fundraising we do, that we do it as an association. And that it is done similar to how when we had 25 Friends rally in Bridgetown District. Some of the older people will know that. When we had 25 Friends rally in district, The district got a portion of the money and the group got a portion of the money. So a group that didn't have fundraising activities couldn't do a lot of fundraising because of their sizes. It was a way for them to earn funds for their group. And I think this is something we have to look at, especially in these times when a lot of groups cannot run fundraising right now. Where, not that we can share it among everybody, because that's not what I am suggesting. However, I'm suggesting that everybody who works on it gets a share out of it. So whatever activity we do, what your group puts into it, it gets a commission out of. The district members that put something into it, the district will get a commission from their work. So that everybody can get to share out of whatever we do based on what they put into it. There will be no, we divide it among everybody, because you are not going to sit down and do nothing and get a share of the pie. That is not how this will work at all. But I believe that everybody that works should get something out of it.
No free lunches.
No free lunches. Okay? And I think that as well will boost our fundraising if we are all working together. But again, our ideas will have to be new, because we will not be having any dinners or fish fries or fairs or anything like that anytime soon. At least not in the format that we know them. So we have to come and think again. The world had a 3-part seminar on fundraising. It was in February. I do not have the dates, but I understand that the recordings from the 3 webinars are online in the resources area that they can be viewed. I would encourage everybody who's interested in fundraising to go and watch them, because it can give you ideas on what can be done. I may watch them and not take away anything from them, but you might watch it and an idea springs into your head that can serve all of us. So I encourage everybody to look at it. The level that I add may not support group finances, but it may spark an idea that we can all work together towards. But as I said, if we are looking to survive, we have to think different about finances, and we have to look for other resources out there. I've been told about 3 so far, and I have put people to check on them. But again, you may hear about something that I didn't hear about. You need to listen out, find out, and let us know so that we can all work together. There's a cost attached to everything. The Zoom for this meeting, there's a fee attached to that. When the training goes online, there's a fee attached to that. Maintaining the information online, there's a fee to the website. They're not all big fees, but all the little fees adding up together requires money to pay them. So we all have to work on board together. Any other questions or comments on fundraising or finances? Okay, number E, development of the Hazelwood property. Huh? 4E. Sorry, item E. I'll get technical on me now. Give a minute. With respect to the development plan, we covered a couple of the short-term items during the year. We started to refurbish the office in Chief Commissioner's office to present a more professional image. The stage that is at right now, the electrical work in the main office has been finished, at least in the with respect to the lighting. The paint for the walls and the ceiling have been donated by the Southern District, and I would like to thank them for their donation of that paint. We now have to get the office painted. We need to get the ceiling painted first, and we are looking for some persons with experience to paint the ceiling. Not some people to slap on some paint on the ceiling, because I don't want the majority of it on the floor. Also, the ceiling needs a little bit of work, and that's why I asked for experience. There are some places that will have to be filled and sanded, not a lot, but I want at least somebody there to know what they're doing to make sure that it's done properly. Once we get the ceiling painted, it will then be the walls. Obviously, the walls will be a lot easier to paint. The ceiling, for sure, the person's painting it will have to use scaffolding to get it done. We've divided what was the Chief Commissioner's bathroom, and we now have a secure room for the security DVR, network routers, and the computer server. It's not fully finished. We have to get the ventilation for the room fixed. I mean, not fixed, set up, but that is more or less finished. We upgraded the electrical supply to the building. When we started the project with the Maria Holder Trust to convert all the lighting to LED, the electrician that came advised that we first get the building supply upgraded because we were having problems. And that was done, I think, in October of last year. It was delayed with the lockdown and then the different protocols in place for light and power and the electrical department and whatnot, but we were able to get it finished. That has been done. With respect to the upgrade of the lighting, we've completed the office area and most of the outdoor lights. The electrician is the holder on the outdoor lights, but now we have to move to the lighting in the auditorium and the mezzanine. But as far as I know, the items we bought with the funds from the Maria Holder Trust, they are now finished. So that will take funding to finish as well. I've spoken to someone about that and they're to get back to me on that as well. With respect to the benches on the grounds, we had a donation of 5 benches from Do It Best, but I am waiting to get them installed. They have to put down some bases so that we can secure them down so that they do not walk away while no one is here. And that should be done hopefully by the end of May. We started the process of trimming the trees on the property, and that is a much more massive task than we thought. They have not been done in many years. We got some equipment. I think that was around June of last year. And we thought that we could have tackled at least 3 or 4 trees with it, but we were only able to tackle 2 with it. Not that we couldn't think, but the amount that had to be cut from those 2 alone was a lot more than we could manage on the weekend. We had to get 2 professionally removed. And we are trying to get some assistance from some various departments in getting some more trimmed. But that was started, but that is not finished. With respect to the rest of the plan, we have to decide what we are going to do next. At the last meeting we had with the CCC, they identified the following. Give me a minute, let me find. Pardon me, we met. We identified the 5 main projects that we want to start with. And that list, for some reason, that I had this morning. Dwayne, do you have them at hand?
Hi, Trevor. Yes, I do.
Qualify to top 5 again.
Right. The top 5, number 1, repaint the auditorium. 2, remove the berm to the east of the driveway and create improved parking along that side of the driveway. 3, place benches on the ground so that there are places to sit other than stairs. 4, repair the storeroom attached to the auditorium to hold furniture and equipment. And 5, acquire the necessary equipment and furniture to properly host events.
Okay, thank you. Those are the first 5 that were the top 5 that were identified. I am going to ask you to make your input by Friday of this week. If you don't have the plan on hand, you download it in the section short-term and medium-term projects. If you can prioritize what you think our top 5 or top 10 items should be and send it in, I will rank it with those other ones and distribute them. Does anybody want to add? Oh, with respect to the cleanup that Ron mentioned, there were only 3 persons that turned up to help with that cleanup. They did quite a bit for 3 people, but it was far from what was expected. With Christmas and then the heightened COVID situation in January, we had very few people coming. And then for the whole lockdown of February, by the time we were finished lockdown, the grounds were well overgrown, as most of you can imagine. We have been getting some community service people, but they are not regular. However, in the last week, there is one that is really good at managing the others with him when they do turn up. And he has gotten quite a bit of the grounds cleared, but they have not been able to complete all. And I am not sure how much longer he has on community service, because obviously these people are only here till they finish their service. But it's something we need to address again. I will speak with the ACC for headquarters, and another email will go out about it. Is there anything anybody want to add to this section? Okay. Any other business? I want to raise two things and then I will open it in case anybody else has anything else they would like to raise. Registration. Registration forms went out at the beginning of this month. Registration this year will be electronic, and that will be for the submission of forms. The deadline for getting the forms into headquarters is the 30th of April. Usually registration goes to the 31st of March, but because last year's registration finished so late, I decided to push back this year by a month, and therefore it started March 1st and it will end on April 30th. So that's where we stay with registration for now. The forms have to be filled out electronically. They have to go to the district to be processed, and then they will be emailed into headquarters. So the districts have to give you a time for the forms to be in. The deadline of the 30th of April is the date they have to be at headquarters, not the date for you to get it back to the district. As I said, when the district gets it, it has to process it. So the district will tell you how soon before the 30th they need to get them to make sure they have them processed by then. And then the funds still have to be collected. Let's remember saying else. I have asked persons this year to register whether they have the funds to pay registration right now or not. I have been made aware of financing that is available to help associations in their shortfall from registration. However, it is not a case where I can go and say 1,000 people didn't register and therefore I want that money. I have to have the registration to back it up. So you need to register. That was clearly stated in the email, but I want to repeat that because somebody has already asked how I expect people to pay registration when they got so many people out of work and funds are tight, etc. But the email clearly said that even if you could not pay at this time, submit your registration forms. So I want to make that clear. Even if you are unable to pay at this time, submit your registration forms. And forms for your group, of course. The forms have been made a little simpler this year in that before, for groups that had district scouters or ADCs attached to them, they had to submit separate forms for them. They had to submit separate forms for group council and group executive committee members. That is no longer required unless you wish to. All the people that are attached to the group, their information is filled out on the group form, the indication that they're an ADC, a district scout, a group council member, whatever, to reduce the amount of paper or forms that have to be completed. If you're having problems accessing the forms and filling them out on your computer or tablet or whatever, please talk to your ADC early so that assistance can be found for you. Do not wait until the last minute. Word of warning. As I mentioned before, safe from harm certificates must be submitted as well. The course is free. It takes about 20 minutes to do. So doing the course should not be a problem. You have right now 40 something days to get it done. Well, take off 14 days because you may not get them in 2 weeks before the district. But there's no reason why before the 31st of March, everybody has not completed a safe from harm certificate. It's not that difficult to do. The site is open 24/7, so you would get up in the middle of the night and do it. So please get it done early. It is required with registration. Anybody has any questions about registration? Okay. Also due with registration are financial reports. That is a mandatory regulation. It was not enforced last year. It will be this year. And since people have told me they've not been fundraising, getting subs, financial statements should not be a problem this year. Because if you have zero income and zero expenses, filling out the form for your financial statement should be extremely easy to do. So nobody should have a problem this year. Bank accounts. It is required that persons not keep their, by PONR and now our rules and regulations and rules, that persons are not allowed to keep any scout money, whether it's group, unit, headquarters, whatever district, on a personal bank account. The requirement is there for groups to have a bank account to put the subs and whatever else in. However, in recent times, this has become extremely difficult because of bank regulations, and two, the minimum balance required by the banks and the monthly fee associated with certain accounts. For some groups who have only a small amount of funds, and for some of them that's less than $100, it makes no sense operating a bank account. One, you ain't got the minimum balance to open the account, but two, if you got $100 in the bank and every month the bank can take out $15 out of it, you can see that before the end of the year, you will have no money. And that $15 for like banks is due whether you got money on the account or not. So it is a problem. It has been discussed before, I mentioned before, but we have agreed that groups that fall into this category can open a deposit account with the Scout Shop, where they can deposit the funds and get them when they're needed. This should be available from the end of the next month. Please note, this facility is for persons who cannot open a bank account. The shop is not a bank. We are facilitating this service. It means that when you want to withdraw money, you have to notify the shop in advance. We will not be keeping large sums on cash on hand that you can come and access your funds when you feel like. That's not how it's going to work. In fact, the funds will not be kept here at all. It will be in the bank. So, as I said, just like the bank, just like the requirements, regulations and rules require, withdrawals will need 2 signatures. There'll be a slip that you fill out just like how you would do at a bank that most people had to sign. There will be a physical record here at the shop that whoever's collecting will also have to sign, so that there's a clear record of how much money was deposited, how much money was withdrawn, and what your group balance is. As I said, this is for groups who are unable to get a bank account because they do not have the necessary funds to do it. I am not setting a limit at this time on it must be less than this or not over that, because I am not sure at this time. It will depend on the requests made by groups. Any group that's interested in this service needs to send an email to the manager of the Scout Shop at scoutshop@barbadosscouts.org. Based on those requests, we will set up what needs to be set up to accommodate the number of groups. Are there any questions about that? All right. I guess that was self-explanatory. I forgot to mention on the finance that the boxes for the service for the offering are still open at headquarters and in the office and at Scout Shop for those of you who may have offering from the service to put in. We did receive some offering electronically, and a couple of people have used the boxes as well so far. But those of you who may still have, the boxes are still open that you can drop it off. All right, anybody wants to add any other business?
Chief, there's a question in the chat.
Question in chat, Martin.
Is there any program in place for new students to give back?
Yes, we are part of the Give Back program. We registered with it. We were part of the launch. And as you know, the launch happened, I think it was the week before the first lockdown. After they came back out, it was not fully subscribed to because nobody was sure what was happening. We have had a number of inquiries. We have one person so far who comes every week to assist in the office. They are helping with the digitizing of our records. We have had some other persons expressing interest, but they never really got off the ground. There is one that is in contact, that's working with Dwayne right now with the Communications and PR Committee, and he is looking at redoing the website. He's sending some samples and we are to meet with him to discuss that further. During the lockdown period, I did get a couple of inquiries and I have to answer them this week because we were not open back to them as yet. For those who do not know, the government started a program where all the students at UE, BCC, and Erdison College that they pay tuition for must give back a certain number of hours in community service every year. More than that. I think it was 150 for full-time students and 100 for part-time. There was some debate on the number of hours, and that was in debate at the time of the lockdown. If I remember correctly, the plan was to run it for a year and see how the numbers worked out and then adjust them to suit. There are a number of organizations that these persons can work with, and we registered to take a certain number of people that were willing to volunteer to work with us, both in the office wise, working on different projects that we have, and then some volunteering to assist as youth leaders. That's how that program works. But because of COVID, the whole, it is still up, but it does not seem that everybody is involved in it. Any other questions?
What is the latest?
I see it. Okay, with respect to the introductory course, that will not happen till later this year. That we have not looked at moving that online as yet. We are doing them in order. So that will have to wait until we can actually have a physical course for now. There are segments we can do through Zoom, but not the whole course. So we will have to look at that. Right now, we are working on the initial course. I am going through right now the sample course for that. And then we will move to explanatory and then introductory. For those the people that completed it last year, their next course will be campers, and that is not going to happen anytime soon because campers take part in a camp during a camping experience. So that is not possible at this time, and I do not see how that course can be done virtually at this time. Any other questions?
But Chief, in addition to what you just said, those people have not yet completed their course because there's an assignment which they are to complete before we can say that they have completed the course.
Okay, all right. Well, you all would have heard that as well. How we are looking to do training now is that each course will be broken up into a number of modules, and then based on what you need to do, the modules will be available at different times, especially the online ones. They'll be available and you can complete them at your convenience. Let me warn you that at the end of each segment, you must complete a quiz to show that you actually took away something from the session. Is that will not just be saying, I watched the video and therefore I am finished. Okay. Then there will be some physical parts to each session, to each course, because there's certain training that has to be done in group. And also when we come into those in groups, there'll be discussions on the parts that were done online to make sure that you have taken away the right things from the online experience. Any other questions?
Yes, please. We're just thinking, it seems as though that the Ministry of Education is pushing for starting back school next term or in the near future based on information I'm reading and seeing ads that are being pushed. If school was to reopen, are we prepared to, as an association, to also start back in groups in faith, face-to-face meeting?
That is something that has to be decided at the group level, because it's a discussion you would have to have with your sponsoring authority. Because even though school may start back, it does not mean they will allow extracurricular activity. Because there were some schools last year who, even when they were having school, made the decision that there would be no extracurricular activities at all. So that's something that has to be decided by the group. By the group, in discussion with their sponsoring authority and their district, and also they will have to follow the guidelines in the protocols that we have set for scouting activities.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Before we leave, those of you who have not signed the register, please do so. For those of you who don't know how to do that, just go into the chat and put your name and your group or district. so that we will have a record of who attended today's meeting.
But Chief.
Yes, sir.
You know, I am very challenged in these areas. And I went into the chat and I got down my name and my group, but I can't get it onto the chat. How do you do that?
You're asking the wrong person.
Dwayne,
Just hit enter.
Just hit enter.
Hit enter.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
You mean?
On the keyboard.
Oh. Well, you see?
LOL.
If I like chat, I see them, Mr. Archer, I will take it there for you. All right, any other questions? Yeah, Dwayne.
Hi, good afternoon again. All right, so I just want to make a reminder, put in a plug regarding our social media spaces.
Yes.
The association has some 2,000 odd people, and our Instagram page has about 300 something followers. We should be much better subscribed than that. So Instagram, our handle is @Barbados Boy Scouts. And if you go to Facebook, you can just follow us by typing in Barbados Boy Scouts Association. I encourage all of you to follow us on both platforms. I know we made mention of scouting during COVID, and if you go online, you might see some of our material from last year or in Team Up, where we worked with the Girl Guides Association to issue some challenges. Some Cubs and Scouts and Beavers participated. I'd like to see more persons participating in challenges that we put out there. So follow us at Barbados Boy Scouts on Instagram and just like Barbados Boy Scouts Association on Facebook. I think that's it.
All right, before we go on, there is 2 youth activities coming up next month. I did send out the information to the districts, and I would, those of you with Scouts and Ventures or know of any Scouts and Ventures, I would encourage you to encourage them to participate in them. I think it's for people, one is between 14 and 20 something, and the other one is the persons, I think, between 18 and 31 or something like that. Can't remember that offhand, but the information went up to the district. So I'd like to encourage you, to encourage your boys to participate. And to the leaders, again, please make use of all the opportunities to attend the training at district, not district, at regional and world level. This is a unique situation. A lot of times these courses are not offered like they are to just any and everybody. So use the opportunity to make use of the training available to you. That's one of the reasons for doing the Safe from Harm, because to register for all of those, you need to send your Safe from Harm certificate. And for most of those, you don't even have to go through the association to register. There are some where you'll be representing the association that the International Commissioner or Chief Commissioner has to do the recommendation. But for a lot of the other courses, like the spiritual development they had the other day, and then they had one on communications and things like that, they were open to any and everybody once you are a member of an association. So I encourage you, as they keep putting out these courses, attend them if you can, or make sure somebody in your group participates in them. That way the group has the knowledge from all the courses, even though no one person went to all.
Chief, I would like to reiterate that because these courses are very informative, and I think persons need to broaden their knowledge base as far as wisdom and so on is concerned. One. Secondly, Through you, sir, I would like to congratulate Dwayne and his team, all the boys who participated and the leaders who participated in the Founders Day service. I must say it was a job well done.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Give me a minute, I just remembered something while Marva was speaking. Courses. Oh, the national awards. The books have been collected and distributed to the various committees, and they are under review. We are looking to have the awards done by the end of next month. And I'm speaking about the Beaver Scout Bronze Award, the Chief Scout Bronze Award, the Mahogany Award, and the Chief Scout Award, and the PWC Awards. We are looking to have them done by the end of next month. I cannot tell you the format the presentations will take because we do not know what our protocols will be coming on to the end of next month. More than likely, the interviews will be done virtually, and the presentations, we have looked at different formats, but a decision will not be made until it is getting closer to the date. Well, until the date has been set and we start getting there and knowing what will be in place for that time. So for those of you who have questions about that, that is where the national awards are at this point. And I just want to reiterate, the groups and boys getting awards need to be registered. Both for last year and this year. Because if you were not registered, you could not have completed the award last year and handed it in. When I say last year, the year that's about to finish next week. So if your group registration is not in for 2020, 2021, and you had a book come in, you need to get it done right away. And then you need to complete your registration for 21 to 2022. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all for coming. Unfortunately, there's a virtual event, so there will be no refreshments served afterwards unless you go in your cupboard and your fridge and get something to refresh yourself on. I wish it was a physical meeting so that we could have a social interaction afterwards. It is one of the things that has been recommended on more than one occasion, that we have more events for leaders to interact with one another. But until such time as we are in a situation where we can meet physically together, that will have to be put on hold, but I fully agree with that opinion. So have a good night. Thanks for taking the time. I will send out an email tonight or tomorrow morning to the districts to go out to see who misses event and if they would like to still take part. And if we do, we will have a second one for them next weekend. Thanks for coming. For those of you not at home, get home safe. Luckily, curfew has been changed. Otherwise, I'd be rushing to leave here now to try and get home by 7 o'clock. But at least I have to 9 now. Good night and stay safe.
Thank you, Chief. Get home safely.
Good night, Chief, and good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Right.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Marva.
Hi.
This Colleen here. You can tell me if June was able to register. I was helping.
Good night, all.
Miss Joan.
Joan Laria.
I saw two. I am not sure, but I saw Joan. I saw two Joans in there, but I'm not sure which one who was who.
Oh, because she was having some challenges. So I was helping her along the way, right?
Oh, okay. She might have been one of those that get caught up in the 100 participants.
No, cause she was in early.
Oh, okay.
But I mean in the register to say that she was online.
Oh,
Anyhow.
okay. All right. I time travel.
Good evening, comrades.
Good.
All right.
Nice to be here.
All right, Colvin. Nice hearing you.
Pleasure.
Bye, Colvin. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Talk to you later.
Good night, Colvin.
Sure. Good evening. Bye. Bye.
Sure.
Dwayne, are you still here with us?
I am. Hello.
Okay, that's cool. I'd like to have a contact with you sometime so we can talk about a few things. I will need to get some information from you. As you know, the name is Brathwaite. You can always reach me 240-1945, 240-1945, or 548-6785.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll message you.
Okay, man.
Cheers.